pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I think our first item is the superintendent's update. So Allison, I'll let you take it from here.
Great, thank you. And we have quite a few guests in the audience tonight, which I'm really excited about. Some student presentations as well as some presenters from the Girl Scouts. We got to see Eagle Scout presentations before, and we are going to have gold and silver medal winners from the Girl Scouts program presenting a little bit tonight. Before I dive into that, I want to acknowledge we have a new student representative who will be joining the school committee starting in the fall. He was unable to attend today because he's out doing the decathlon somewhere, so you have to send positive thoughts. His name is Jerry Chu, and he is a senior involved in student government. He seems like a fantastic human, and I'm really excited to have him here as part of the group. We met, and I shared with him the Massachusetts Association of School Committees actually creates like a handbook for student representatives. So he had access to that, and we'll get them all kind of trained up and ready to go. So I know he may be reaching out to anyone or all of you just for advice and support, especially the chair and vice chair. So yeah. Thank you. I wanted to invite our Girl Scouts. Is it just you so far, or do we have everybody here? Everybody's here. Fantastic. So we have two presentations tonight, and the first, Zainab Anwar is coming on up, and she's going to tell us a little bit about her poetry project, and we'll cue it up for you. And if you want the clicker.
Am I just talking to this?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Okay. Hi everyone. My name is Zainab Anwar. I didn't know it moves. Oh, so sorry. Okay. Hi everyone. My name is Zainab Anwar. I'm currently a rising sophomore over at Barnes College in New York. I graduated from Westborough High School last year. The same year I completed my Gold Award for Girl Scouts. I wanted to start by saying thank you to everyone for having me here. I love talking about Girl Scouts. It was a really big part of my life when I was like last year, basically. But yeah. So my project was called Poetry and Me, and it was inspired by my love for reading from a young age, but also the lack of like representation that I saw in like the books I read. And so every Girl Scout Gold Award project, and maybe Silver Award, it was a while ago, I don't really remember that, but starts off with doing research on the cause that you want to work on. And so as I was going through various sources, I found these infographics that kind of lay out the amount of like various diverse backgrounds that are represented in children's picture books. And this was done by the Cooperative Children's Book Center. And based on the percentages that I saw of the various diverse backgrounds being represented, I was really shocked, considering how diverse our communities are, but how minimally they were represented, and how much of an impact that can have on a child's view of their world. And there was this one in 2020, which was when I was first starting my project, and I was pretty moved by it, and I decided that this was what I wanted to work on. So as a part of my project, I started off by hosting workshops over at the public library, where I invited kids to come and attend, and we talked about what identity means, how it can look for different people, and I encouraged them to write poetry about an aspect of their identity. And we shared our poems with each other at the end, and it was really rewarding seeing everyone kind of recognize aspects of their day-to-day lives that meant a lot to them. I also reached out on like Facebook groups, and I basically said that, hey, I'm working on this project where I'm talking about identity, so if you're open to it, please submit a poem about who you are. And I got submissions from around the country and even other countries in the world, which was very, very, very like, I was glad to see so many people were interested in this. And basically what I did was, there's a picture of one of our workshops, and there's another picture of me holding booklets. So what I did was I took all the poems I collected and I made little booklets and I distributed them to local libraries. And there's also a link, I'm not sure if it's very visible, but I also compiled it into a website where people from around the world could see it. And then I passed on like the whole workshop process to a club at the high school so they could continue it in the future. And basically it was just, as I said earlier, rewarding to see people like talk about who they are, especially like in a world like today where diversity is such an important thing. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you. If maybe we can give the board a chance to ask any questions
Sure,
or make
sure.
any comments if you want.
Absolutely.
Anyone want to ask any questions of Zainab? You want to start with Steve?
Yeah, what would be your conclusions to the research that you did?
Conclusions, research, like the research that I was doing at the beginning.
Well, yeah, you did.
Okay.
You had 2 comparisons up there, maybe more in the process. And so based on the effort that you put into it, what would you say? How would you characterize the changes over time?
I would say that there definitely was an increase in diversity in books as the years passed on, but it still wasn't significant compared to like the population of the world, and especially like, for example, just the United States. And a big part of what I wanted to do in my project was not only have like representation for kids, but also making sure that they can actually see themselves reflected in the representation they're seeing. Because a lot of times, like, there is representation, but you don't relate to it. So I wanted to give kids a chance to kind of write their own representation and really write about an aspect of them that they 100% understand and have an opportunity to share that with the world.
That's great. You should include that part in your presentation as well.
Okay, thank you so much for the feedback.
Jane?
No question, just great work. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yakub.
Thank you for your presentation. I looked at some of the poems earlier today. The ones I followed the link that was there. I see that there are poems from different parts of the world. Great project.
Thank
I
you.
have if you don't mind, an off-topic question. Since we have an opportunity to speak to someone who just graduated last year, could you tell about how you felt as a Westborough High School graduate in your college experience? How did you feel prepared compared to your peers?
I think I was prepared. I think Westborough does a lot to kind of show diversity. I think Westborough could definitely do a lot more considering how much of a role diversity plays in the world today, and especially like with everything going on in our country. Just kind of encouraging people to like celebrate who they are and see everyone as equals, I guess. I think I go to college in New York City, and so Westborough High School is great, but I do think that as a community it's a little small, and I think we live in a little bit of a bubble. And it's a nice bubble. It's a very pleasant bubble to be in, but it is a bubble, and you don't really see the whole world, I would say. I think Westborough does put an effort toward that, but I think Westborough could do a little more on being a little more transparent about everything that's happening. Just in general, just in the community and also in the world, just kind of telling students like what happens in the town itself could be a big step, because I think a lot of times high school students just kind of know what's happening at the high school. They don't really know what's going on in Westborough as a whole. And yeah, I mean, then going over to New York City and you're kind of like in the center of the world, it was definitely jarring. And I think that's definitely a comparison that you can't always prepare for when you're in high school, but I think it's something everyone can work toward.
Wow, quite an answer.
Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation and congratulations. I'll just quickly ask, I'm curious if you had a chance to connect with any of the students at the high school that potentially carried on or helped to carry on the project that you're talking about.
I did. They're working. I think they're planning on doing something in the following year, because the people I'd passed it on to were seniors, and so they've passed it on to other club members. So I'm keeping in touch, but I'm hoping that they can continue it on.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Zainab. This was great work. Very exciting to see. I didn't know you were doing this, so it's
thank
exciting
you.
that I learned about it. Zainab is a friend of my daughter, so I'm especially proud of her. I would say it's interesting. Is there anything that you've taken and moved this forward in your college career? Any projects that you've done, or in any writings or anything like that, where you've used this work?
A little bit, yeah. I took a class called it's a bit of a long name. It was Women of Color in Speculative Fiction, and so it was basically a class all about like women of color, because Barnum College is a women's college, and how we want to see like whatever identity, whatever group we identify with, how we want to see them in the future. And so we had an end of the semester essay, which was basically just about like write about any topic, like research something and write about it. That's like in the realm of the class. So I'm South Asian, so I wrote about like seeing how our fashion is kind of represented and how it's passed through generations, especially in like such a global world, and how generations growing outside of like South Asian countries are able to kind of carry on heritage through fashion. And that was kind of how I kind of drew upon the idea of growing up with an identity and how you're able to carry it on and kind of cherish it in different ways. And so in my essay, that was fashion. Yeah.
That's excellent. Thank you so much, Zainab, for coming and presenting.
Thank
We
you so much
appreciate
for
it.
having me.
Okay,
Thank you.
can go have a seat.
We have another Girl Scout presentation. I'm really excited to have Shreya Prabhakar and Shri Sukatubatri come up to do a little presentation about community birdhouses, that's a super fun one.
Hello, everyone. How's everybody doing today?
Great.
Good.
Thank you.
My name's Shreya.
My name is Shri, and we had a third member. She's from Medway. She's also a 9th grade student who used to live here, though she unfortunately couldn't come today. So it's just gonna be the two of us.
Can you speak into the mic, guys? Just get a little closer.
This is better?
Yeah, maybe she can move it forward.
Let's speak like right here. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we completed our Girl Scout Silver Award project last year, and we called it Community Birdhouses, and it was by the 3 of us.
Okay. So our project, what in our project, we decided to we noticed that in Medway there was not really a problem, but we noticed that there was not a lot of diversity in the avian species in the town of Medway, and we wanted to increase this biodiversity. Our solution for this was by researching a few native species near Medway and Massachusetts in general, and we decided to build houses for them. The 3 bird species we worked with were wood duck, blue jays, and bats. And this is what we did to achieve the solution.
So we needed the money to like buy the materials to make our birdhouses and stuff. So we need to have a fundraiser. So we hosted a community bake sale at a local apartment in Westborough, Arrive. And we got permission and we sold cookies, brownies, and vanilla sponge cake to like all the people that were there. So at the end, we made enough money to like buy all our materials. And so after we got that money, we
After we earned the sufficient amount of money we needed, we purchased things like wood glue, and mesh, including a lot of other material. We had to do a lot of research for this to see what type of wood we needed for each bird specifically, what materials were safe for the bird, and etc. We also learned a lot about budgeting, believe it or not, and a lot about woodworking as well. So it was a really fun experience that we got to work together, and yeah.
So in the end, our project was that we built 6 birdhouses for the Medway Community Farm. That included 2 wood duck houses, 2 bat houses, and 2 common bird houses. Since the population of blue jay birds was like higher at the farm, we decided to like target them. So,
Yeah, that's technically what our project was. This is the QR code to the website we have made, and it basically showed more about the bird and why we did it for them, more information about how they live, etc., and some more information about our project.
thank you.
Thank you. We'll let the committee ask questions and make comments. Steve?
Have you been able to follow up and see what impact you've had with these changes?
We only did it like at the end of last summer, and to like sustain our project, we talked to like the leaders of the farm to like clean and maintain the houses. We gave them like a schedule of like what to do. So we'll be checking back in soon in a few months after year's complete.
Thank you.
Great. Jane?
Well, what got you interested in birds in the first place?
Kind of funny. We were looking through project ideas, and we really wanted to focus on something to do with the environment. And I guess we decided to be a little unique. I recently like was watching this documentary too, and then my friend brought up her community farm, and we realized that maybe birds would be interesting to talk about.
Great job.
Jakub?
Yes, hi. Thank you for your presentation. I like the project. I think you did a great presenting, the problem, the solution, how you approach, how you raise the money. It's very well presented. I like this a lot. It's very clear what you did, why you did that. I'm just curious about how you came up with, how did you discover the problem of low diversity in Medway? How did that come about?
As I said, so our friend lives in Medway, and I think it was like during kind of like a vacation time from school. So we were at our house for like kind of sleepovers and stuff. And we were just walking outside, and like as I said, I'd watched a documentary about birds. And I like to annoy my friend. I was kind of just talking about a bunch of fun facts. And then my friend would bring stuff about, bringing more things about her community up. And that's kind of how we like the project.
Sounds good. Thank you very much. Well done.
Tim?
Congratulations. I would just be curious if you could talk a little bit more about some of the budgeting issues that you had and what you might have learned during that process.
Well, first of all, we realized that the wood was absolutely expensive. So we went around to a few stores. We had to figure out, like, first of all, how to cut the wood. So we had to figure out good material that we could use. That costed a bit of money. We tried to find things like in our houses as well. We used some scrap wood that we already had in order to save a little money, noticing it was the same type we needed. And we also had to check through like Lowe's, Home Depot, and a lot of other stores. We went to like different towns too to check which one's cheaper, where we can buy it, and that's kind of how we started like budgeting everything.
We also wrote a letter to the Home Depot asking for a $50 like donation for our project, and they accepted our thing, so we also used some stuff from there.
That's great. So in terms of, you said you built houses for these particular birds that you wanted to attract.
Yeah.
Is it the feeds that you put in those houses that would have attracted a certain type of bird? What was the connection there?
So this kind of had to do with our research. So we like found like the right height for like specific like birds to live in. We put like wood duck houses near the water, and we made sure like not to put anything like too artificial. So we kept them like the same color as like the wood. Yeah, we didn't use any paint either. So we like hoped that it would be more like naturally attracted to those.
So you identified characteristics that would be attractive to them, and then you would incorporated that into their homes. That's very good. So thank you so much for coming, and we really enjoyed the presentation.
Thank you.
I have one more comment.
Oh, sorry. We have one more question.
If you include purple martin birds in your research, they eat mosquitoes.
Like
I'll
bats.
have to try that next year.
Yeah, like bats.
Thank you.
We need those.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have another student presentation. We have some students from Mill Pond who are coming to pitch pitch an idea related to Planet Aid, and I want to introduce Principal Peter Gwelnitz, who's going to tell you a little bit about.
Hi guys. So I'll introduce them and kind of let them do most of the talking. But what we have here is these are 6 representatives from our student leadership team, which is actually a group of 32. So we figured we wouldn't bring all 32 here, so we just went with 6. They volunteered. And our student leadership team in general has done a number of projects for us throughout the year. They lead our veterans drive that we've done annually, which collects thousands of pounds of clothes for the veterans. We led a fundraiser for the wildfires earlier this year. They've helped us to build a more diverse food menu in our cafeteria. And then we just had a fundraiser for Greyhound. Correct. We just finished one for helping rescue greyhounds. So they've done a number of different projects. This is one of the more tangible ones that would actually have something on our effect on our community. And so I will let them introduce themselves and who they are and what the idea that they came up with is.
Before we start, I want to thank you so much for this opportunity on behalf of my peers, because not many students get this opportunity. Thank you so much for your time, and without further ado, welcome to the Planet Aid presentation. I'm Achintya Thamatam.
I'm Sana Mahesh.
I'm Cora Venzel.
I'm Nandana Sridhar. I'm Anaya Ajmera.
And I'm Addison Indra. We're part of the Mill Pond leadership team. We hope to install a Planet Aid bin at Mill Pond. Today, we stand before you to tell you how Planet Aid will advance Westborough as a green town, and these benefits are for all to enjoy.
By hosting a yellow bin at Mill Pond, we will be reducing our entire town's carbon footprint. Here are 2 big topics we will be talking about today.
We're going to talk a little bit about what Planet Aid is and also the benefits of this charity. Now I'll be passing the mic on to Anaya and Nandana, who will tell us all about Planet Aid.
What is Planet Aid? Planet Aid is a nonprofit organization that focuses in on community development and environmental protection. They collect and recycle used clothes and shoes. Participating in this reduces landfill waste and raises funds for local development programs.
Planet Aid has been an organization that has been going strong for 25 and more years. They have donated and reused 22 billion pounds of textiles, and they have raised $100 million to fund community-led projects. And overall, Planet Aid has helped many individuals live a more healthier and better lifestyle by reusing more waste. And in the slide deck, there's a link that you can see for more additional information.
Okay. How can Planet Aid help Mill Pond? Planet Aid mainly focuses on preserving and maintaining our natural resources, which can really help strengthen our community. Mill Pond and the Westborough community try as hard as possible to be green. Try hard to be as green as possible and are always striving to find a green initiative. Putting a Planet Aid bin on school property will not only help reduce Mill Pond students and their families' waste, but it will also benefit everyone in the Westborough community. And we are going to watch a video about Planet Aid. I don't know if we can do it.
I'll click it. I didn't test the sound on this, so it could be really loud or maybe very soft, so we'll see how it goes. Didn't know we're going to be doing a video here. Should be having sound at this point.
It's mostly text anyway.
Yeah. I don't think we're going to get the music.
It's captioned.
That's fine.
It's just music in the background.
you have something to say?
We'll be placing the bin on the last spot in the Mill Pond parking lot, as shown here, so that we can keep an eye on it with the security cameras in case there are some problems with it.
We're also thinking about putting up some signs near the bin to tell people that this bin is to only donate like textiles. We're also thinking about making some announcements on our morning announcements at school to give the kids an idea about what the bin is for and what they can donate.
Any questions?
You good? Okay. I'm going to open it up to the board to ask any questions.
No
Steve,
questions. Great
Jane, do
project.
you have anything?
Well, first of all, you are incredible presenters. Absolutely incredible. I'm so impressed, blown away. And congratulations, this really cool idea. How do you come up with, this isn't just about the Planet Aid, which I think is a great idea. How do you come up with the projects that your group takes on each year?
So basically this year we had a leadership team which was composed of a lot more students than we have usually, and we did so much work this year, and we bring in ideas and passions that we have to create more drives and fundraisers. For example, we did this drive called the Coin War, and people wanted to bring in different charities that they wanted to donate to. For example, like Dana-Farber Cancer Institute, or like Greyhound Friends INC, a nonprofit dog shelter. So most of these drives and charities that we create are passion driven, and we accomplish so much more by working as a team.
Yeah, really great work. And I remember, Mr. Gilnitz, when you started the leadership group, and so it's obviously flourishing and was a great program. So thank you too.
Thank you. Jakub, you have anything?
Yes, I'm sorry if I missed it. What grade are you in?
Sixth grade.
This was exceptional presentation. Well done, all of you. Really, really well done. It's a tall order to stand here on live TV in front of all the adults. So great job. I just have one question. I'm very excited about this. I probably will be contributing to that bin at some point. I'm curious if this can be connected somehow with the Lost and Found in Mill Pond. That storage there is always growing. It seems by the end of the year. Do you have a plan to do something like that at the end of the year when nobody claims their clothes?
I think that if we do end up, like, if nobody collects those clothes, the Planet Aid bin will be, like, raising community funds with those textiles, and they also donate to others in need. So if no one collects those clothes, we might as well put it in the bin so other people in need could use those clothes.
You could also use it as a motivation to some students. Yeah. You know. Thank you. Great job.
Tim?
Awesome presentation to you all. Really appreciate it. My only question would be, I'm just curious if any of you have worked with or heard of Sustainable Westborough before?
I don't think so.
Sure. Just an organization here in town that this is right up their alley, so I'm sure they would love to partner in some kind of way, but really great work and great presentation.
Your presentation blew me away. I mean, you guys should go on public speaking after this. So that, very, very good. I think it's a great idea. When I heard about this, I was very excited. These might be questions for Peter, but one great thing is the placement of the box. I see that you're going to be putting cameras to be, I would just be, for obvious reasons, concerned because it's the school parking lot. Although Mill Pond is situated such that you really have to go out of your way to go there inside the parking lot and to do this. So I would imagine troublemakers are going to keep away. What do you do as far as managing people, the overflow? So, sometimes you'll see a lot of times in those boxes that people will just fill them. And how is the pickup work? How often is it? When do you take the, empty? It looks like they have answers. Wow.
So
The only thing we told them not to talk about was the money stuff, and I said, we would handle all questions about monetary.
Okay.
But
No.
everything else,
Perfect.
There you go.
So drivers have regularly scheduled routes, depending on where Planet Aid bins are in the area. They can come even sometimes every day, depending on how many Planet Aid bins there are near the location.
but they schedule it during the evening so it doesn't like interfere with like people going to school and stuff. Their drivers are trained to keep the area around the bin nice and clean so that we won't really have any problems.
Ah, that's excellent. Thanks. So you guys knew that. Is this sort of going to be a trial, or how are you planning on doing it? I just wanted to understand, to just make sure. Those would be my obvious concerns, but I just want to make sure.
I think we're going to put the bin in the parking lot and see how it goes. There hasn't been any problem with all the other fundraisers and things that we have done, and the kids at our school are pretty well behaved, so I don't think anything will go wrong. But yeah, it's like, I guess it's like trial and error, but I think it'll go pretty well.
Yeah, I think so too.
Adding on to Naya, on the Planet Aid website, it said that you can ask it to be moved or removed whenever you want it to, so I don't think that would be a problem.
Excellent. And do you know of others? Based on the video, it sounds like schools do partner in this. So are there schools in the area also that have done this that you've looked into at all? No? Okay.
I'm not sure. I have seen them, like, I had a soccer game once and there was a big Planet Aid bin in the parking lot, so there's definitely, like, places where it can go.
Yeah, it's pretty popular.
I've seen a Planet Aid bin next to Four Kicks, and since that's right next to AMSA, I don't know if Planet Aid is connected with AMSA.
And this is sort of just a host site, so is there any cost associated with this?
There's no cost for it. We actually earn money from it. It's 5 cents per pound, if I'm correct. We earn 5 cents per pound of stuff donated that can get given back to the schools.
That's wonderful. Do you know how you plan to utilize those funds that come in?
I think,
we're just planning to like use it for more benefits for the school, more. Especially for the parent group. We have a parent group in our school, and it could go to them because they help us fund more fun activities for us.
Oh, that's great. That's a great idea.
Recently, we've had something called a fun run, and the parent group helped provide that for us.
Yeah.
So,
and like we have things like Spring Fest and Fall Fest where like all the grades can have fun and do fun activities.
Excellent.
And like connect with the kids in their grades. So.
Okay.
But we're not really in it for the money. We're more for the environmentally.
Yes.
We would connect with Anita to make sure that all the money transfers.
Right, was accounting, yeah. Excellent. Thank you so much. That was excellent. Does anyone have anything else that they want to add? Or okay, great. Thank you, girls, so much for coming.
Thank you.
Talk about a tough act to follow, I feel like.
Yeah.
I do want to say to anybody assembled here that it's not an expectation that you stay through the entirety of the school committee meeting, so appreciate your coming out tonight. I know you all have other exciting things to do with your lives, and thank you and fantastic job. So.
Thank you.
All right. So next item on our report is I wanted to provide a quick memo update about kind of where we are end of year with some of the strategic plan initiatives. And I'm just going to kind of read through the high level stuff, and if you have questions, we can kind of dive into them as we go. I think you'll see through the link here that a lot of our focus this year was on teaching and learning related initiatives, which is as it should be in any kind of public school system. This is the bread and butter of what we do day to day. And many of these things I've mentioned before, but I will kind of storm through them again quickly. We had a new writing curriculum as well as literacy assessments that were rolled out this year. That was a very successful start. There's more work happening on that front, but it involved both professional development and some coaching support for teachers, K-6, and the use of assessments to gather data that's really going to help us refine what we do in terms of supporting students moving forward in their literacy skills. We also continued to refine what we're doing around social emotional learning curriculum. This wasn't in the original strategic plan, but we put it in here because it was just such a big piece of what we did this year, which was work around generative AI. I think that's been such a large focus for us. We've got a working group that's up and running, and all of our educators in grades 4 to 12 had professional development. It was really around understanding what AI is, what it can do for you, and how to kind of use it both professionally and thinking about using it to enhance learning in the classroom. A lot of work still to be done on that, but it's off to a really good start this year. The high school team has had this part of the strategic plan for a while, and they've really been focused on what to do to support students for whom you need some kind of alternative pathway, like a kind of work-related pathway, some sort of something that looks a little different than a typical high school experience. And for a lot of our kids who are interested in, for example, career and technical education, there just aren't enough spots out there in those schools, in the CTE schools, as we talked about earlier this year. We actually do, as a school district, very well getting kids in. The problem is just a sheer shortage of spots out in the universe. So the team there has been doing a lot of great work, kind of student by student. The goal now, and I met with them a couple weeks ago, is to pull together a group that will start to talk about programmatic approach. What do we need to do that's not just student by student, but it's actually developing a pathway program? And there are kind of two poles of that. There's sort of a, what do we need to do for all students, kind of universally, so kids have more ideas about where their career is headed. And that's something the guidance department and the counseling departments are really interested in that work. And then what do we do to create kind of pathways for students to opt into? So those are sort of two tracks of that work. We've got outreach going on to pull a team together. We're going to be looking into pulling community members into this work as well, because I think community voices will be really important. Our preschool and kindergarten started a series of alignment visits, so they did some visits back and forth between the classrooms, and the idea is really focusing on kind of overlap in their instruction, particularly around inclusive practice and playful learning. In kindergarten and preschool especially, a lot of learning happens just by doing things that are fun, exploring and using your imagination and learning through games and things like that. Mill Pond did an overhaul of their schedule for next year, and they're excited about rolling out a slight variation on the rotation schedule that they think is going to kind of do a better job for teaching and learning. The universal mental health screeners were implemented, and you heard from Kim and Roger a little bit about data that we're getting, that some of the data is being shared back with the counseling teams, but also with anybody who's doing SEL work, so that we know what we need to lean into around instruction. Our ESL team did some outreach through principals to do training with staff, but they also worked on their own skills. We've had new membership in their team, and they needed to kind of pull together to learn a little bit about how to increase their knowledge depth so that they can then go out and do more training for other folks. And then a really big one was this data dashboard, and I want to credit Daniel, who's here for his last meeting, who worked with an organization, Open Architects, to create this data dashboard where we can actually pull in a lot of different information about students and student performance and look at it over time, so we have a means for really measuring our impact. And I think that's going to be very critical as we look forward to the next iteration of strategic priorities, so we have some benchmarks for what success looks like. In the wellness and relationships bucket, we had focus on therapeutic programs at all levels, but particularly Mill Pond in the high school, and looked at kind of their configuration, how they do what they do. And the Fales School, which started a district-wide program, it really completed its first year this year. That program was sort of piloted last year and pivoted in terms of focus mid-year, and I'm excited to see how that evolves as well. The principal coordinator and our new student services director will be pulling together to refine what happens in that program. There was more work done around SEL curriculum, particularly at Mill Pond at the high school. We had the second year of implementation of our ARISE protocol, and you may remember this from last year. This is like a response protocol that the district is using to address incidents of hate speech and bias. And I want to say, I think people did a nice job at the leadership team level, really informing the faculty working as a team, getting themselves aligned about how to use this protocol, and also making sure students were aware of reporting mechanisms. And so they handled a lot of the reporting that came in, and so far we're seeing some good impact in terms of a reduced number of incidences. So I don't know if it's good luck yet or a trend. We'll see within a year or two, but it was nice to note that by kind of really clarifying what our expectations are, by talking with kids about that, by sort of making reporting clear, there seems to be a reduction of incidents. So, and finally in that bucket, the ELL families in our district have benefited from some new translation and interpretation tools and services that we're using. So that's exciting. And some of those we've even shared with our partners over in Youth and Family Services down the hall. So in the communication and community outreach bucket, Parent Square, which we sort of launched just last year, right? We did some work to expand and refine how we're using it to try and enhance our communication. I think there's ongoing work to still do with that, but I know that we're seeing increasing kind of very thoughtful usage at the school level. In terms of community partnerships, I want to highlight our wellness folks for their partnerships through Square One. They did a lot of interesting work this year. I think, again, that's a place where there's more room to grow, but there's some exciting things that happened this year. We had both district leaders and principals who kind of banded together and did some outreach to parents and some workshops for interested parents about boundaries and boundary settings that had really great reviews. I got to sit in on one of these, and it was Kim Tynan, Roger Anderson, and Marianne Stannard over at Fales. And it was really fantastic. I mean, they were kind of providing parents with research and information and kind of support, and parents had these very honest questions, and they created a nice environment where people could talk about some of the things that are just hard about being a parent, and they got kind of great feedback back. So we're hoping to kind of continue that. I'd like to see if I can get those folks on TV, see if we can broaden our impact there. I haven't told them that yet, but maybe they just found out. We'll see. We were able to launch a new employee portal as part of our website, just as a way to sort of streamline some of our internal communications. So that's been great for staff as they're sort of looking for information. Then on the management and operations side, as you're well aware, the budget book, we did kind of an initial overhaul this year, and we are off and running with the conversion of our chart of accounts too. So we've got a consultant hired who's working with Anita to make sure that our sort of account configuration really lines up with other school districts throughout the state of Massachusetts. So it's a little easier to do some comparative data finding. It's also just, they're broken down into nice sub-accounts that are really clear for people. So folks can have a better idea of what we're spending money on, because that seems important. Our business office staff receive some important training so that they can kind of make sense of some of the reporting coming out of Munis, which is our software for financial purposes. We got all our files digitized for personnel matters, at least all the kind of current and over the last few years. We didn't do a way back look because the thinking is as the district evolves and people sort of come in, that eventually will be completely digital just by virtue of growth over time. And we all, at some point, as well as some of our folks internally, looked at a little bit of the viability around electric buses, which I think are, we're clearly not in a position to invest in short term, but it's something that kind of over the long term we'll have to watch and see. Is that something where the kind of the way those are being rolled out by kind of state programs or grant funded programs becomes a little bit more accessible and an option for districts. And on the facilities front, we had a significant overhaul of the downstairs area of the Sugar Shack. So that space is now going to be much more viable to do more program expansion, which is fantastic. And then we've got this parking lot project through because of ARPA funding. And so we'll be able to really kind of clean up and hopefully make for a safer parking lot there. I'm unsure yet whether we'll be able to eke out any more parking spaces, but if we can, we definitely will during that project. Kind of final note on all of this, I think in kind of coming into the district and working with the existing strategic plan and thinking about timelines, my original thought was, well, we've got one more year after this year. And really instead, what I am planning to do is to pivot and essentially work with the leadership team to develop a new set of strategic priorities this summer. We will kind of comb through the existing plan and pull up anything that seems like it's still a high priority item and incorporate it. But the ultimate goal is to have a set of strategic priorities that are tight, that are really well aligned, that are clear, and that have some sort of database benchmarks and kind of clarity about responsibility. So there's sort of follow up and follow through. So it's going to look a little different. I think it'll still be in these same general buckets. You've got teaching and learning, community outreach and communication, management and operations, facilities. Those kinds of things are still going to be in there, but it will also draw heavily on things that came out of entry findings. So just a quick update there. I'll stop talking and let folks ask questions if you've got them.
Excellent. Okay, I'll just start with Steve. Do you have any questions or comments?
Just some comments. There are a number of things that I think are buried in the history of the school committee that we should resurrect, I think, to look at. One is particularly associated with the parking at Armstrong and Gibbons, which is the old field house. It has come up a couple of times. It's probably in really tough shape right now. I think we need to look at that as a school committee and see whether that's a liability. Mm-hmm. And if it is, and we can find money to demolish it, that you'll get some parking out of that. I think just in a general summary of issues associated with electric, either solar or school buses or any of that, I think the tenor of the current administration is that there will be no federal subsidies for anything. And more recently, even the approach that we took at Fails in regards to subsidies and return on money spent, as we benefited, but I don't think anybody else did in Massachusetts. But at any rate, the SMART program, which is what was behind the earnings that we get at Fails, is defunct. At best, we would get 3 cents a kilowatt hour, and we would have to pay for 100% of those investments. So, and I stand behind my position, which is, unless it's something that we need to do, and unless, in fact, it is the least cost approach to a solution, I certainly would have voted against any of those ideas until we can figure out a way that the community benefits by virtue of investing in whatever it is, whether it's solar or whether it's any other thing that might come along the pike. And so certainly this year, I think those ideas that are listed here are certainly good things, and there's a lot of good in even looking at stuff and finding that they didn't turn out, mainly because we learned something as we go forward. So, and certainly those are my ideas relative to what's presented, as we reviewed opportunities during the year.
Thank you. I am the field house at Gibbons, where they're doing storage. Is that the one you're talking about? Yes.
Yeah,
we've had some conversation about that for sure.
Generally, what's stored in there doesn't belong to the schools. So,
town stuff, yeah.
It's probably something that you might research and come back with a memo as to what you found and what conditions there are and so on. Okay. And we can deal with that in the fall.
Do I need a hazmat suit or anything like that? Be careful. We'll definitely check into it. I know it's been on Jack's radar
for a long time.
For sure. So.
Jane,
no, I was pleased to see all the progress towards the strategic plan, and I think you've already kind of teed up some of the things that will probably be featured in the next strategic plan. So thanks.
Thank you.
Jakob?
Yes, thank you for the update. I'm intrigued and happy to see that you took initiative with the alternative learning opportunities for the students. I'm very excited about that. And I'm just curious, I understand so far it's been case by case. It wasn't structured, it wasn't streamlined. So you're looking into making this more of a, like a process that every student will go through. But are you also looking to expand it so more students will be able to participate in that?
Yeah, I think the strength of a more programmatic approach is we're not waiting for a student to struggle. We're kind of offering something up and saying, here's something that you might want to do to opt in. And, there are kind of state-supported innovation pathways programs. So for now, there's some grant funding there. We'll be looking at that. But different schools have tried different things where there are internship programs or self-study programs where kids can kind of take a semester to do an independent work. But there's how do you structure that well? How do you provide them guidance? Things around internships with high school students can be tricky because they're still pretty young, and college students, and we have a lot of them in this area, are also looking for internships, so it's hard to kind of land students. So trying to figure out what is the right thing. We've generated some other schools that are doing this work. We want to visit and talk with them, and also just really hear from people in industries that are looking for people to work, and to hear a little bit about what are things that are skills that kids need going forth. We also, kind of the other end of that you alluded to, is the more universal work. It's kind of doing career development work starting about 7th grade is actually something that a lot of places support research-wise, because that's a point where kids are sort of starting to decide, how invested am I going to be in school academically? What kind of classes do I want to take in high school? Do I want to work hard and get myself into a different type of program? So having some universal things that all kids do around career development in 7th, 8th grade can really tee up great outcomes for kids down the road.
Thank you. That's great.
I'm excited about it. I think it's going to be good stuff. Yeah.
And just one question I have. Looking to the next year, what do you see right now as the most urgent need for Westborough? What do you think needs to be addressed the most?
Well, that's a fascinating question. I really think right now we I suspect we're going to have another very challenging year budget-wise, so that's very much top of mind for me. So part of me is in a little bit of, how do we hold on to things that are important, that are at the core of what we do? Kind of on the more innovative side, I am thinking about, the work that's happening in literacy. We're in a time where that work, I think, is going to be very important, and along with the work in AI. In part because we want our students to be well-educated, informed, and thoughtful, and how do we kind of merge together a need to help them become kind of literate in an old-fashioned way and literate in this new way at the same time? It's going to be big. So.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Tim.
Thank you for the presentation. It was great to see all the progress, and I'll echo Yakub that it's very exciting to hear about the alternative pathways. Just a few quick questions. My first one, it was incredibly encouraging to see that the positive trend, even though it's relatively early regarding a rise and it's those instances. I am curious, do we have a general sense of when we think that we might be able to draw a more definitive conclusion in terms of what the trends are showing?
It's a good question. I mean, I think the challenge of everything we do is that it's correlation, we can kind of track it over time. I'd say we always want at least 3 years to sort of before we get too excited about anything. But I also think this set of problems can be influenced by things that are well outside our control too. So we may have developed a really strong protocol that works and is responsive, and it also sort of helps set expectations for kids, and still may have some challenges that we're up against as the world becomes harder in some ways. So, yeah.
I'm curious as well. I know that you talked about the AI training for teachers, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah.
I know that you said currently they had done it for 4 through 12. Mm-hmm. Is there any discussion or conversation around also providing some training for K through 3? I understand it might not be as relevant with the students' work, but just potential ways that teachers might be able to utilize it to improve their teaching.
I think that we've done a little outreach to K-3, and I definitely think that's going to be important. I think we're focusing on the older grades because that's where kids are accessing it and starting to use it, so we kind of have to get there first. But I think for teachers and for their work, we do need to sort of engage with them around what it means to be a working person in the universe of AI nowadays too. So.
And then my final question, and apologies if you have spoken about this in some depth before, but if you could just give a brief overview. I know you're talking about the data dashboard of what are some of the metrics that are new to teachers that they're able to see and potentially work with that they didn't have access to previously.
Yeah, turn that one to Daniel. He's the most familiar with it. I think it's fantastic. It's got everything from attendance to test scores of various kinds, but he's got a closer eye on it than I do.
So there's several different data points that were in different data sets and in flat files, if you will, like flat files like a spreadsheet. So if you wanted to look up a current third grader's test scores from first grade, you'd have to go back and find the spreadsheet from that year. And so, for example, it takes data that were in those flat files that you can look up anytime in a student's history. So you can go in and you can look up the first grade data of the third grade or sixth grade student, and with just that one data dashboard. But you also have, instead of having the literacy tests in one set of files, and then the math in another set of files, and then access scores in another set of files, and MCAS in another, they're all there to search on and merged, and you can look at patterns like by grade level, by school, and then you drill down and you look at subsets of students. You can call up students who are struggling and click on the ones that are in the bottom quartile and call them up, and then click on the individual student and get a full set of all of their data longitudinally. And so in addition to the test score data, there is attendance, there's discipline,
enrollment.
I'm trying to think if I'm leaving anything else out, but it's mainly like academic attendance, discipline. And at the high school, you get to see some different data. At the secondary level, you can see course grades, starting with middle school, so you can see any different course. So yeah, it's a very powerful system.
It's nice. There's one of the dashboards is this sort of My Student dashboard. Allows you to see kind of student by student, just a real cross section of all the data kind of pulled together student by student. So it's very helpful for teams of teachers who are looking at, if they have a student who's struggling, how do we support that student? What do we understand about that student? How do we do a good job with instruction? So yeah, it's nice.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, one other thing I want to say about the literacy data, we take it into the elementary grades at 3 points during the year. So you can look at basically the percent of students scoring in the needs improvement category at the beginning of the year and see how that changes over time. And like I was saying before, you could then click on that particular dimension, like the kids that haven't made progress since the beginning of the year. You can see them right away and call them up and make plans for moving forward for the upcoming year.
It's definitely a very powerful tool, and I very much appreciate coming in the door right as this is showing up, because it is, I think, I think that notion of how do you understand the impact of what you do instructionally, and data is a huge part of that. And so if we can help, our leadership team is using this now, and some teachers, and help more teachers kind of use this and take some ownership of it too. So they feel like the data is not something to be scared of, but more something to kind of use to inform what they do next. It's really powerful. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't have any comments. Just thank you for the update. I guess we can move on to the next item, which is the donations.
Oh, fantastic. This is just wonderful. And if you recall last month, same company. So our friends at Affordable Interior Systems had made some donations to the Armstrong. These were donations they also made, and we just didn't get the letters in time. So 2 sets of items for the borough for part of their new kind of newly outfitted basement. There's some very nice stools. And I clicked off the, there's both porch stools and desk chairs. And the total donation amount is a little over $3,000. And I'll echo Aaron LaPrade, who has said this is a company that is just a fantastic partner for the Westborough Public Schools, for the borough in particular, but for all the schools. They've really been tremendously helpful and are quick to respond if there's ever a need. So I appreciate their support, and we will have a vote to accept those. We can either do that now or later.
Yeah, I was going to say let's do that now. So we've got the two. Does anyone want to make a motion to accept?
Also move.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
5-0-0.
So my motion is that we accept those gifts with gratitude for the benefit of the Westborough school system.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll take this.
That's it for me.
Yep.
Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. So the next item we're going to be moving into is the superintendent's evaluation. That is, our summary of the evaluation has been linked, so people can see that. It's it's available for the public to view. We are going to go through it as a school committee. I know. Do you need a copy of it? I don't know if you have one.
I've got it.
You've got it online. Okay, awesome. So we're just going to take each standard and present it essentially in terms of our review. So I'll start with Steve, if you want to go ahead.
Okay, this is standard 1, strategic leadership. During her first year, the superintendent has demonstrated strong and strategic leadership in navigating a significant leadership transition. Stakeholder feedback reflects broad confidence in her thoughtful, inclusive, and forward-looking approach to assessing district needs and setting priorities.
I'm just going to interrupt you for a second. This is the wrong one, but I don't know what was put up there, but I think the one that got printed was the wrong one. I just want to check to make sure, so I might ask that everybody read from. Yes, this is not the right one. Okay. I didn't notice it. I had sent an updated one to Lynn, and I think she said she did link it, but this is the wrong one.
The printed is wrong or the link is
They're
wrong?
both wrong. It's the wrong one. There was the version. You sure? Okay, I don't think so. That's okay. Sorry, Steve. Continue. I just want to say that this is not the most recent one.
Well, hopefully if we need to change it,
Yeah.
we can do that next time.
No.
The superintendent conducted a comprehensive entry plan, which included detailed analysis, classroom observations, and extensive stakeholder engagement. These efforts led to a clear understanding of district strengths and areas for growth, laying the groundwork for development of a new strategic improvement plan. The key areas of progress noted by the stakeholders include support for English language learners and a positive trajectory in literacy and social emotional learning curriculum development. Professional development for evaluators and staff, particularly around emerging issues such as AI in education. Strategic planning and committee formation, including the launch of an AI working group, attention to expanding AP course access. Clear and transparent communication with public presentations of findings and a commitment to community engagement. While many initiatives are still in their early stages, school committee recognizes that foundational work is essential in the first year of leadership. There is a shared expectation that future efforts will more directly connect strategic actions to measurable improvements in student achievements, instructional practices, and staff development. Overall, the superintendent is viewed as having set a clear vision, built strong relationships, and positioned the district for continued growth. Her leadership has inspired confidence in her ability to guide the district through meaningful and sustained improvement.
Thank you, Steve. Jane, you want to go with the next standard?
Sure. So I just read it from here?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So standard 2 is organizational and instructional leadership. The superintendent has demonstrated effective leadership in managing complex district operations during a challenging first year, marked notably by navigating a difficult budget process and critical hiring decisions. The school committee commends her professionalism, thoughtful balance of competing interests, and transparency throughout the budget cycle, including clear and accessible presentations that help demystify complex financial information for the community. Her proactive restructuring of the budget book to align with DESE standards and improve transparency has been positively received, reflecting a genuine commitment to open fiscal management. The superintendent efficiently completed key high-level administrative hires, incorporating feedback into decision-making processes. Areas for growth include enhancing advocacy and visibility in town forums and budget discussions, where some felt stronger, more passionate leadership could better represent district priorities. The school committee emphasized the need for the superintendent to more visibly champion staff and student issues, especially during contentious moments. Despite these challenges, the superintendent has shown a solid foundation in organizational leadership and has prepared well for future budget cycles. There is recognition of her willingness to listen and adapt, particularly regarding support for immigrant families through ongoing efforts, though ongoing efforts are needed in this area. Overall, the superintendent's performance in this standard is strong, balancing operational demands with strategic planning while setting the stage for continued growth in advocacy, communication, and community trust.
Thank you, Jen. I'm going to go through the third standard just before I say that. So there were a couple of typos in there, and that was not meant to alarm anyone. The substance is the same. So just to say that there might have been a couple of typos that were missed. So as far as the third standard is concerned, the superintendent has made commendable progress in building meaningful connections with families, community members, and local government partners during her entry year. Her consistent presence at community events and school functions had been widely noticed and appreciated, demonstrating a genuine commitment to understanding and representing the diverse needs of the district. The committee members recognize her approachable demeanor and strategic efforts to engage municipal leaders and town committees, laying a solid foundation for collaboration. Communication efforts, including the introduction of a weekly staff newsletter and timely community updates, have strengthened transparency and information flow. While some challenges have emerged around the use and interpretation of community surveys, the superintendent's reflective approach and willingness to adapt communications based on feedback show promise for ongoing improvement. Going forward, it is recommended that the superintendent deepen her engagement by increasing direct classroom presence and building stronger relationships with veteran teachers to foster greater trust. Overall, the superintendent is progressing well in the community engagement, balancing data-driven decision-making with the need to creatively address the unique needs and expectations of the Westborough community. Go ahead, Jakob.
Standard 4, professional culture and leadership. The superintendent has made strong strides in cultivating a positive and professional culture within the district during her first year. Her thoughtful and sensitive approach to managing complex issues in a challenging political, financial, and emotional environment has been noticed and appreciated. The committee members highlight her proactive establishment of working groups focused on critical topics such as smartphone use and AI, demonstrating her commitment to addressing emerging challenges with strategic planning. The special education finance workshop she led was particularly well received, providing valuable learning opportunities that support informed decision making. Her leadership style is characterized by a strong work ethic, flexibility, and openness to feedback, which fosters trust and encourages staff buy-in for new initiatives. There is a consensus that she models a culture of continuous learning and growth, seeking opportunities for professional development for both herself and the district leadership and our committee. While this year has been primarily observational and foundational, the expectation is that the superintendent will continue to build upon this momentum and deepen the positive professional culture as new strategies and practices are implemented.
And I will take us home with the final overall rating summary. So Allison's first year as superintendent is widely viewed as successful and proficient, marked by strong leadership during a challenging transition from her previous district. She has demonstrated quiet but impactful successes, including managing a near-level services budget despite significant external pressures and making key high-level hires that maintain district excellence. The committee praises her energy, fresh perspective, and ability to listen, reflect, and collaborate, setting a positive tone throughout the district. While acknowledging there's room for growth, especially in areas such as budget ownership, advocacy in town forums, and clearer communications around difficult decisions, the school committee expresses confidence in her leadership skills and her potential for continued growth. Overall, Allison is recognized as a strong, thoughtful leader with the intellect and interpersonal skills to drive meaningful improvements. The consensus is optimistic about her ongoing development and the positive impact she will have in her second year and beyond. And I'll just finish by saying, Allison, congratulations on your first year. So
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll echo that. Thank you very much, Allison.
Thank you. And again, thank you all very much. I feel, I've said this to people before, when I go to meetings with other superintendents, I have to be careful how much I talk about the district here because I feel like I won some sort of superintendent lottery. This has an extraordinary level of support here for the schools. I have an incredibly dedicated and thoughtful committee to work with, and that's just not true everywhere. Just there's a strong and long tradition of hard work and commitment here in this town, both to kind of the schools, but to the town and to the life of the place as a whole. I think it's an inspiring place. I could not have landed in a better place, and I really do look forward to the work ahead. I feel like this year was a lot about sort of watching and learning and stumbling a few times and figuring out how to do things better. And I will continue to do that, I'm sure, and you'll continue to let me know, I hope. But I really look forward to kind of rolling up my sleeves next year and starting to work kind of more strategically on the challenges ahead. So and on the exciting stuff ahead, really.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great job.
You want to, so I guess the next item is the student handbooks. I know that we have some things that we wanted to update.
Yes, I wanted to kind of run through the update memo really quickly. And some of these have been incorporated and some of them have not. So when you do vote, I just want to acknowledge that it's going to be a vote to vote the version with the incorporation. So the three items really that I wanted to draw to your attention to were, first of all, there was homework and holiday guidance that was developed last year, last June, sent out broadly within the schools, and has actually been linked to all of my messages out about holidays. And that guidance, which kind of corresponded to the decisions around the changes in the calendar last year, just simply didn't make it into the high school handbook, so they had old guidance. So they have since made that correction, so that is there. And so this is kind of a clerical cleanup situation. It's not really any substantive change. It's mostly just to make sure that what we are putting out in the public actually is consistent with what we have put out in the public. The second item is the AI committee has been, we've had a couple meetings so far, and we're really in the process of developing more robust guidance. One concern as we're in process is what can we put in place as sort of some kind of guardrails for students so that they have a sense of what the expectations are and incorporate that into the handbook 6 to 12 or 7 to 12, and also might even be handed out to students so it's a real focal point for them in some of the older grades. So the high school team looked at this and they're very excited about it, as this is sort of a stopgap. It will be in place while we develop fuller guidance. And what I like about it is it both kind of places some guardrails around AI, but also indicates that there are appropriate uses for it, in fact. So if you look at the text, it's sort of implicit in this is a thing that is useful and usable, and we want to be open and honest and surface when we're using it. And I think it's going to be helpful. I think having this in place will help teachers feel more confident and comfortable making use of it if they've had clarity about some guidelines and some rules of the road too. So that's item number 2. Item number 3, relates to an issue that I mentioned earlier in the year, and you probably heard about earlier in the year. Kind of somewhat without a lot of notice or fanfare, Google announced that several of the apps that are add-ons within Google needed an affirmative parent sign-off in order for students to use them. And some of those apps are apps that are widely used here in the Westborough Public Schools. So Google Earth, Google Translate, things like that. So our tech team sort of scrambled, worked with our principals, and got all that sign-off done this year. They want to incorporate that language into handbooks, so it's sort of done as part of the handbook sign-off moving forward, so we don't have to do that whole thing again. So that is a draft there that will then be incorporated into all of our student handbooks, and that's a K to 12. So those are the three.
Okay, I think it would be a good idea for us to vote the handbooks if everybody's had a chance to look at this and incorporate. And basically what we'd be voting is the incorporation of these, although I think the versions we have not yet been have not incorporated them yet.
The holiday has been updated, the other two have not yet. So.
Okay. Does somebody want to make a motion, and then we can have a discussion if we want.
Okay, motion to approve the 3 changes or updates to the handbook.
Second.
Okay, we can start discussion now. Go ahead. Anybody have any comments about this? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
So for the calendar, I want clarity. I mean, how the homework policy. So if a holiday happens to be on a Monday, the wording there says, I just want to understand that assignments cannot be due until at least the second class meeting after the holiday. So that means if it's a Monday, then it cannot be assigned until due Wednesday. If that's correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And that's how it's been so far. Okay.
It's been for a while.
Yes. The other one I have about this AI, I call it a pledge.
It does come off a little bit as a pledge, yes.
Yes. The problem I have is it's very vague what the kids are actually pledging to. You know, AI has been around for 45 years roughly. You know, it's in so many places that people don't even realize they've been using AI all along. I imagine you're referring to generative AI and large language models.
Yes.
And so AI tool is really a vague term, and so I hope that can be fixed, and it probably should be adjusted to different grade levels. The other thing is, I expect more from the committee, right? From the AI committee. This is just the beginning.
Oh, yes. This is like I said. This is a stopgap. There was an opportunity to talk about, with handbooks coming, is there a way to have something that's incorporated into the handbook as that committee does their work, because that work will happen largely over the summer. So we should, by the fall, have something that's much more robust. And we've already got a pretty sound set of guiding principles, and we'll be also looking at work around professional development and things like that too.
Okay, looking forward to it, and I hope it will be appreciated by the community that you added. It looks like it's a response to one of the citizens' requests regarding the Google product, and so I hope this will be duly noted. I think it's important to have that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jane, did you have something?
Yeah. So just a couple. So the one thing I think we really, and I don't know that this can be reflected in the handbook any more clearly than it is, but the actual application of the homework policies, and then really supporting the students around the level, oh, no, I've lost it. Category 2 holidays. I just think it's a lot on the students, especially, maybe in the younger grades, even through early high school, to have to ask to be, to be excused from assignments or have an extension. I just think we really need to make sure that it's clear to the students how they do that the teachers really adhere to it and are supportive of the students.
I think to the extent possible, we can proactively work with staff on kind of how how they take some responsibility for opening the door to that, which is to say,
that sounds
how a teacher says, recognize there's a holiday coming up. If you need, just sort of proactively put it on the table, I think is really helpful and important, especially in the younger grades. But it's students here very much want to please people, right? And I think it's important to note that, and that's a huge strength of our students. They want to do well. They want their teachers to think they're smart. They want to be liked and all those things. They don't want to cause problems. We need to kind of find a way to make sure that they hear, not just from the district, which is this sort of abstract thing, but from teachers themselves, that, I see that this is a thing that might impact you, and I am open to working with you. So
I think that's a great way to handle it. And then the AI student agreement, to me, this is like way too broad. I mean, it's, as a parent, I wouldn't know how to guide my student to follow this, except to really just stay away from everything. So I hope that I know this is just a start, but I think this would make some students very nervous to sign, because like Yakub said, sometimes, does that include grammar checks? Does that include, and so I think part of the solution to that is for the syllabi to be very clear, at the high school level, and even I think in middle school, they have syllabi very clear on what is allowed and what isn't allowed, because this feels way too diffuse to me to really help guide the students. And I very much appreciate that the committee is trying to start with just some guardrails around, to keep them out of the gutter of AI. But I just worry that we are running the risk of having students really feel like they're not sure what is allowed and what isn't allowed, and they've now signed this pledge, I like that term, and it could be, used punitively. And so anyways, my first reaction to this was just, it was so broad, and really I want to make sure the students have guidance around what they can use and what they can't use.
So I have a comment about that. I agree it's quite broad. I can understand, though, why it's drafted that way. I think this is sort of like right out of the gate. This kind of sets up the boundaries that they want to set. I think if we look at it in the realm of, let's say we're talking about plagiarism, I think you would also sign something that says, I agree that I'm not going to plagiarize. What are the parameters around that are dictated by what's happening in the classroom and what your teacher is saying. I agree that this is a different world and it's new, and I think part of the issue is with this that the work, we have to do it parallel, right? So we have to create the controls and learn about what the direction is going to be in the classrooms at the same time. And so I think that's the struggle. And so while I agree it's very vague, I also think that, it raises awareness to the kids that, hey, listen, this is out there, we're aware you're using it, and we just want to make sure that you're responsible in doing so. But I do agree that this has a lot of potential for future tweakage. I mean, there's a lot that can be done here, but I would hope that the intent of this is just to raise awareness that, we have expectations around your usage of this, and what we guide you to do in the classroom is going to dictate the rules around it. But I understand I don't know if kids would be that afraid, because I think they're also signing, like I said, pledges when they say, I'm not going to plagiarize. And what does it mean to plagiarize? That's a very also sort of a loose discussion as to what somebody would characterize as plagiarizing versus what, the guidelines around that,
Yeah, and I mean, I hear students very worried about plagiarism because they don't want to inadvertently do it, to the point that it's almost ridiculous what they're rephrasing sometimes to not plagiarize. So and to me, plagiarism is like a drop in the bucket of, like, compared to AI. It's just, AI is so broad. So I just don't want to paralyze our students.
No, yeah, I hear that
think
too.
it's interesting that we sort of wrestled with this with the working group, and this is adapted from a kind of AI guidance playbook, essentially, that was put together by Code.org, and like industry leaders who are kind of out there thinking about this work. And we took it, our teachers looked at it together, and one of the things they did is reorganized a little bit so that bullet about, I will check in with my teacher. They're trying to kind of prioritize the let's communicate about it, let's talk about it. And I think we'll lean into that this is not a thing we just drop in the handbook and don't talk about. This is a thing we need to really talk about with students too. And I think the high school folks in particular are very aware of that. They're talking about it already, but I think the place we want to get to is talking about, not just talking about how not to use it, but talking about how to use it. So that's the thing we're heading toward. And it is a little open and squashy right now, I agree.
Okay. And then the other comment I had was regarding the handbook change. So I'm going to sort of just echo what Jane was saying. I just, I think the issue that I have around it is there's such a wide variety of, in terms of the enforcement and the way that each teacher deals with this is just, there's no consistency around this at all. And so that's where I find that unfortunately there has to be enforcement where there's not consistency, and we have to figure that out, because if it's a rule and it's a rule in the handbook, it needs to be followed, and that there's just nothing around that. So we have to figure out how, whether that means we need to provide more education around this, and if that's possible, that's what the issue is. I think it's very hard for an elementary school teacher that has not necessarily been exposed to a Category 2 holiday to know that it's a Category 2 holiday. So part of that is going to be letting them know, but also, the importance of, I just find it really important to be following this, and I know that over the years, from personal experience and from experiences as far as talking to folks, that there's just no consistency around how this has been employed, and so I think that needs to sort of be figured out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just sort of say, you and I have had this conversation, but I think if there are concerns or issues that come up, it's really helpful to let us know. Just letting school building administrators know, letting me know. I think, a policy is only as good as us following it. And if there are places where we're not, we just need to know that so we can address it and deal with it moving forward. I think the kind of diversity of this place and the people in it is a strength, and we want to sort of find a way to make sure that our kind of policies and structures are supportive and feel good for kids too. So that's it.
Yeah, and so part of that may be that we, empower our parents and students to come out and say something when there is, because, whether it means communicating with your teacher, whether it means communicating on the next level, whatever it is, like you said, if you don't know something, you can't do anything about it. And I think that that's an important part of this too, but I think we just need to work on this to make it better, because if we've made the effort to put this into place, then we also just want it to work well. So that's what I have to say about that. Tim, did you have any comments about it?
Yeah, just one quick comment. Appreciate all of the other discussion here, but Allison, I was just curious about the one addition in the Westborough High School handbook regarding graduation and the requirements there. I'm just not sure. Do you know if that reflects any change in the policy, or if that's just stating current policy?
In terms of, I think so. I might have to research that one and get back to you.
What specifically are you referring to?
Yeah.
It was an addition of, in order to participate in Westborough High School graduation ceremony, a student must have completed all of the following, and then there are 3 requirements listed.
Then this is related to the competency determination conversation. I think that's where this is growing out of. So this was our attempt to kind of get out in front of that. Now we've got the state kind of coming back, so we may have to adjust depending on what lands in terms of the lining of the plane, because they just came out with their thing this week. So, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And then another point that I was going to make, or ask rather, is since we have had some discussion around whether or not people feel comfortable with the policy that's in, the AI language, perhaps we could consider voting on it and having a approval for because once we approve, I guess if there's no substantive change to a handbook, once we've voted it, that changes in the handbook then, right? So we don't necessarily vote it again next year.
We vote to approve handbooks every year.
Right, so I
and-
guess we could take the affirmative step to say we want to change something. That's one way, but I just want to, I also don't want to hold this back because I think it's our last meeting and I know these sign-offs are all going to happen in August for the kids to start in September. So I'm trying to figure out a way that we can, I don't know, if we want to try and vote this and see where we land and then go from there.
Well, I think one of the issues there is that whatever we have agreed to needs to be done early enough for the printing of the book.
Right.
And so, as you said, the real story should be almost complete by the time we meet in August, which is what, third week in August, give or take?
Yeah.
So,
I would think.
but I'm gonna have a suggestion when we get to our school committee reports on the simple basis of what logic tells me that we should consider for this.
Okay, so you want me to hold off on the vote till the action? 'Cause I was gonna.
No, I'm gonna give an opinion, I guess, as to what be done.
During the discussion?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, so I think like the best way to handle this, since we're talking about it, is to just take the vote now, and then we can discuss it. So does somebody want to make a motion?
So move.
Second.
Okay, discussion. Steve, go ahead.
Well, I think one of the things that's obvious here is that the guideline for a student in a given class is what does the teacher want? And so I think the emphasis should be on the teacher to create what he or she wants relative to AI. The object being is I will view X, Y, and Z as a proper use of it, and I will view something else as a negative use of it, and we will have discussions about having done so, because I think there has to be a standard, and the standard needs to be of the teacher who is in effect reviewing the student's work. And so I think the driver for this is the logical conclusion of what's right and what's wrong as being espoused by a teacher. Now, to the extent that every teacher has their ideas, that now becomes the pool for the committee to review and say, I like this, I don't like that. That's a one way to get all the horsepower of the people in each class of school to contribute to this development of how do I manage students in my class in a fairest way possible, which is here are the rules as I see them as a teacher. And I think that's a fair way to move forward.
So I just want to clarify what you're saying. I'm trying to understand. Would you agree that like each individual teacher should have their own it should be within their discretion as to how they would regulate the use of AI in their classroom?
Well, yeah, without the generic one that we create or the administration
Correct.
creates, there is nothing.
Right.
Right?
So
let's
essentially
start
that
with
first sentence that's in the sign off is basically that I'm going to use AI as directed in my classroom. I think that's what it says, right? Something.
Well, that's
to that
true,
effect.
but until there's AI as directed, i.e. what's the direction that needs to be created? And until there is a direction on a piece of paper that you could give to a kid, there is no rule. It's just the phrase. The phrase is meaningless at this point.
Agreed, but also I would say sort of disagreed, because I think that this is such a big issue in the classroom, or can be. And I think like anything else, a teacher is setting rules around I don't see it as much different than any classroom rules that a teacher would set.
You need the rule, and there is no rule.
But teachers
As
don't
directed.
right.
What are the directions? What is the rule?
But often teachers don't have written directions around things, but they set the classroom rules in any event.
I don't understand. That's double talk. If a teacher is going to grade something on the basis of an opinion as to whether the kid did something right or wrong, then that person needs to espouse what is the judgment. Here is an example. That's a positive, that's a negative. I'm going to judge you on those two items. Somebody has to write something that says, what do I do? A student isn't going to come up with an answer for the teacher needs to. And so, we can discuss this forever, but you need a place to start.
No, I agree, but I think it's a really useful discussion. I think it's important. The way I see this is I don't actually see it as intended to be overly directive at this point. I think I see it as just putting something out there. That's it, and then they're going to figure out the rest later. to say that, hey, this is an issue and we're looking out for it. That's how I see it.
That's
but
a backwards way to
you
try
know,
to
it's-
get
it's
something
possible that-
started.
Right, but that's the kind of world we are in right now. With
No, it
AI.
isn't. No, it isn't. There's common sense that says, if you are going to plagiarize, here's an example of what someone plagiarized. Here's what AI said about that question, and here's how I would interpret it as used by some example. Which means now there's an interpretation on the table by the teacher as to how they're going to view what their student does. That's a necessity. Otherwise, this is just gobbledygook.
So are you suggesting that the teachers have their policies by the beginning of the school year? Is that what you mean?
I think that's what our policy is now requiring. Otherwise, what do they do? And unless someone asks them to do this, it's not going to get done.
I don't think it's just a simple ask. I think there's not enough education around it yet. I think it's an evolving thing.
Then
that
this
there's
policy is premature.
and I agree.
The sign off, you mean?
Yeah, making a kid say, I'm not going to do something that's not defined is a mistake.
So
I
how much
agree.
time do we have before this has to be decided on as far as next year's handbook? Can this be, we have the first committee meeting according to calendar, I think, last week of August.
Yeah, I mean, I think, so another approach to this, since I'm hearing a lot of questions, because we did throw something at the wall to see if we could get some sort of thing out there. And I think another approach would be, our committee meets over the summer. We should be walking away with some more substantial guidance at that point. I could bring back this information to them and say, the school committee felt like it was just too vague, and we can work that up too, and then make sure by the end of the summer we've got something that can be incorporated into the handbook. Handbooks are digital, so it's a pretty quick turnaround if we need to vote for an addition in the fall.
I think that's a great idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a question around that actually. Is some of the, what are the teachers' thoughts around this in terms of having a sign off? Is this
They're looking for some guardrails. That's why this came up. So, and I think they're looking for just something that says, please talk to your teacher if you have any questions. That's the primary thing out of all of this is that, don't use this without checking in is really the fundamental notion that I think came through, unless I'm missing any other ones. That was the one I heard.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's correct. And the committee, of a group of thoughtful educators thought that this is a starting point to make sure that teachers are very clear. It's the message is sent to teachers. The very first statement here is teachers need to set the guidelines in their class. And there's debate among teachers about how they want to use it.
That's exactly.
And so, I mean, I think there are different teachers' comfort levels and different disciplines. And so to try to one size fits all, you're going to get sort of into a problem. So I think, the intent here was put it forward, because there's no mention right now in our handbook of anything, and basically send the message that the school will have some rules. The school rules are not all that clear yet, but starting now, whatever your teacher says goes, and they need to be clear, and you need to follow them. And that was like point number one in a nutshell, and the most important point that the committee wanted to make sure that was conveyed.
Yeah, and some of the logic of that is that the decision about task, right? The decision about what to ask students to do for work is by and large part a teacher-driven decision. If I'm a teacher, I can decide, is it going to be an essay? Is it going to be a different type of project? What's the content of the essay? So I have a lot of autonomy around those things, and therefore I need to be making decisions about the role of AI in any of those assignments. So I think having that where it is right now, that was kind of where the thought came from. We just haven't gotten far enough yet with teachers to have a standard of what's expected about what kind of tasks should incorporate AI and what shouldn't. We're just nowhere close to that yet. But the one thing they do know is they don't want students using it for things where it hasn't been explicitly called out as part of the learning process.
So I think the way that Steve put it is perfect, that if we're asking them to sign off on I will follow my teacher's rules and the school's rules. Then if there aren't rules that we know every single teacher are going to give, then this is not putting the student in a fair position. So, I mean, I will, and it's gotten weird now, but it says number 3, I will check with my teacher prior to using AI when unsure about whether it is acceptable or not. I mean, we could have them sign off on something like that. You know, I will check with my teacher about using AI because they know exactly what they have to do. But until the teachers, I mean, I used the word vague, but Steve was more, you know, descriptive about exactly where the problem was, so thank you. And I think, you know, unless we're going to have rules in every single classroom, like on the syllabus, and that might be too much to expect for the beginning of next school year.
So I have a question.
What's interesting about this is how difficult this is, because in effect it creates a whole new method of teaching, okay, which is totally different than 100 years ago, because it forces collaboration between the student learning and the teacher's process to understand what the student is learning. And that's really different than what it was before. And so we'll see, you know.
I mean, I think,
I would
go ahead, I'm sorry.
I have a couple of thoughts, but one is, can we rely on can we? I mean, what is our goal here? Why do we want those kids? Why do we want the kids to sign this? If you ask yourself that question, you know, we worry that they're going to be using it in an appropriate way, and you know, in an educational context. So, I guess now that I think about it, maybe we can go about it differently. Set the minimum standard for a district, what we as a district think is appropriate, and just set, you know, boundaries. But that's something that can be conveyed to the teachers, and then the teachers can then add additional rules on top and convey that to the students and set the standard they want in the classroom. But that will have to be more restrictive than whatever the district allows. So we would just set the bottom line, and then every teacher could then set, you know, I mean, if I think about my own kids, the way different teachers allow them to use different tools, and they can do so, but there are some things you should never do, and maybe that's something that we should be looking at.
I think, yeah, you just said that, which is what I think is that, you know, every different teachers allow you to use different tools. I think you said that, and I think that is how I see this. I think what you're suggesting is great. I think the issue here is that you're up against the clock, in that having a meeting of the minds on every level, your secondary, your primary, by grade, is not going to happen overnight. So for them to come up with grade level you know, rules around this may never happen, because every teacher may disagree on how they want to employ the use of this in their classroom. And then you've got the issue of by grade, which is a whole other layer. So I guess I understand why it's vague, and I actually would agree to leave it as vague as it is, because I mean, I don't love all the language, but I think to say that I, you know, would not use AI, you know, without checking with my teacher, or without, you know, I think that's a reasonable thing to do, and that's how I read this. So, but I think we have to, if we're not planning on voting this in, then obviously
we have time.
You know,
otherwise, you know, if you feel that there's even in the current form that it's necessary that we have something, then call for a vote. I would suggest that we start with, let's say, a couple of college definitions of what's acceptable and what's not, whether or not it's AI or whether it's just plagiarism. But start at that level. I mean, we already heard, you know, some keynote speaker at some graduation this year that was plagiarizing something and had a withdrawal. I think that's a fair way to start, because at least that's what it was, and go from there.
Okay, so maybe we should start by, we have a motion on the table and we just discussed it. So do we want to take a vote first? So let's do the affirmative first. So first, let's take a vote to see if somebody, because I don't know what the motion was. Yeah, to approve it. So let's take the vote on whether or not we're going to incorporate all of the changes that have been proposed to us here into the handbooks. That's basically what the motion was, all three, as they are written. So that would be the vote. So,
Yep. So there is a motion that was seconded.
yes, and so all in favor. Okay, so 2 in favor and 3 not in favor.
I would vote in favor of it if we took out the pledge.
Right, so do you want to make an amended motion then?
I would amend the motion to remove the pledge from the request.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, 3 in favor, 2 not, 2 opposed. Okay. So I guess where that leaves us is you probably are going to have to go back to the committee
That's okay.
and then hopefully come back. I don't know what timeline that's going to look like for you, but.
It's fine, and you know, this didn't exist until this working group sort of started kind of working through it and talking a little bit about it. You know, and I think the analogy to tools in the classroom is good. This is a tool, you know, like a calculator, and if we need to sort of figure out what does that mean for teachers in classrooms and articulate it a little more clearly, and hopefully come back to you in the fall. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you, Allison. So that's taken care of. Now we've got the school committee dates we're going to go through. Everyone has that in front of them.
Yeah, I only have a comment on 2 items, which are in the months where we have town meetings listed. Historically, the school committee only met once and then included the other meeting because, you know, let's say the March town meeting in recent years has only been one night or one day. In the past, we have had days or stuff on the agenda that took 3 days. And so having 2 meetings of the school committee in the same month where you had that dedication, I think was overly too much. And so I would request that we only have 1 official school committee meeting in those months with the knowledge that we're going to be at town meeting as well.
So, okay, I see.
So you would take away then the March 25th school committee meeting?
Well, that's the one,
Yeah.
well, the 25th is
after the meeting.
Is after the town meeting, so yes, I would.
Do we vote this?
And also October 22nd, right? That's what.
Yes. No, we haven't. That's what
Wait,
we're doing right
October.
now, right?
Oh, October 22nd. No,
Yeah.
I'm saying, do we vote this in general, the meetings, the calendar?
The calendar, yeah.
For the meetings, okay.
We can always
sounds
call
good.
any particular meeting that we need to with 2 days' notice.
I mean, I'm indifferent. I probably think definitely the March town meeting, oftentimes I guess it depends year to year, but, you know, I would be fine with getting rid of the 25th meeting because it's so close to town meeting. And I do think the 11th meeting is really important. I kind of wish it was closer to the 21st, but I'm indifferent, so.
Can I ask, are we currently operating under that? Like for this current year, is that what we've done of just the 1 meeting? Yeah.
Yes.
Do you have any thoughts around that, Allison?
Well, so looking to next year and what I anticipate will be an interesting budget season again. I'm just thinking through what are the possible things that could happen, and you know, I would agree that it'd be important to maintain meetings prior to town meeting, and if you're going to drop one, the one after makes sense. I also wonder if it's possible that town meeting could be hard, you know, this particular year coming up. So that makes sense to me. I think given that the October one is much shorter, or it seemed to be to me a shorter kind of gig, would be more up for discussion. That's sort of the heart of getting the work off and running. But we did, even this calendar, I think, when we kind of went through proposed dates, I think it's already 1 session shorter than this year's calendar. So just keep that in mind in terms of the number of dates.
I have a question. Just like you said, we could add a meeting. Can we not cancel a meeting?
Well, you could, but there's an anticipation that, in fact, if it's on the calendar, that, in fact, it was needed. And I'm saying if it's needed and we don't have it on the calendar, it's pretty simple to call it, which is post it 2 days before the need. The only real issue is whether this room, if we're gonna be here, is dedicated to us. And by the way, not having the room over there when it was originally posted there, I don't know how that happened, because in fact, we have first priority over any other meeting except the selectmen. And so I don't feel.
Another idea would be to add additional, I mean, add the meeting in February. So we have the February 4th, and there's 3 weeks in between. We could have perhaps on the 11th. I don't know if that's the break or not.
That's not. That's a week before the break starts. Yeah.
So that would be 18th. I'm just thinking of making sure that we have enough time to prepare the budget.
Yeah.
And that I think.
Well, that's the driver, is getting the budget from starting. The rules for the budget are defined in the town bylaws, and so in order to meet those dates that are fixed, we need to have the time, which is starting the budget process for the first meeting in August, or last meeting in August. So up until the time that the budget is fixed, and by the way, in that period of time, historically, not only did the superintendent have to report to Board of Selectmen as well as Finance Committee, but a number of members of the school committee in the past used to have to go as well. So it's not like, quote unquote, you're not getting stuff done. That is our focus. That's our primary focus in the year, is to set and evaluate the budget for presentation at town meeting. The fall town meeting is not necessarily something for which the school committee would have an event. Sometimes we do, but in terms of financial stuff, we only did it once in 20 years, have a presentation in the fall town meeting.
What are your thoughts about maybe just removing the 25th meeting? I do think that we're also very tired, usually after the 21st, after the town meeting. I think we could probably do potentially away with that one and then leaving the October one as is.
Well, you can do whatever you want. I will vote for removing those two. The 2nd October after the town meeting, as well as the one after the March town meeting.
Okay.
So just a question. The October 22nd meeting, Allison, would you see that one as a time when, we're really working on the budget and there's a lot that you can see needing to meet with us about, to prepare the budget?
I think, at that point in the year, we're still sort of working with the leadership team internally. So to that end, a lot of that work, this year I kind of brought things forward to you more in November than October. The work in those first few meetings of the year, I'm really hoping will be focused on sort of showcasing a new sort of set of strategic priorities, having conversation about them, letting you know about those issues, and then other types of things that we usually do at the start of the year. So, yeah. I mean, if you all want to, I thought the February idea was interesting in terms of.
So, I guess I'm asking you, would you prefer we keep the October 22nd meeting, or do you have a preference?
I have no attachment to the October 22nd
okay.
meeting. So.
I mean, in the end, we might just end up having longer meetings, right? If we have a shorter meeting. We might end up having longer meetings. That's it. If we have, one meeting fewer, we'll have longer agendas.
Up until that point, actually until sometime in December, probably by December 3rd, we need to know as a school committee what our budget is going to be. And so to the extent that, it marches from the last meeting in August till that point in time in December, whatever it takes is what it takes.
Another question is, so let's say we remove both the 25th of March, 22nd of October, but then as we are in the budget season, we decided we want to add the meeting. Can that be done?
Yeah. All you have to do is post it and find a place to meet.
Sure. So maybe that would be a way to go.
So yeah, I think that's an option, but so that would be like very specific to a certain time frame, right? I just find that there's consistency in the dates of the meetings. I agree that like maybe one of them we could remove. I'm not I'm not entirely attached to the October 22nd meeting. I also think that it's nice to have that consistency for the community. But that's just a thought. It's really doesn't have to impact anything. I don't know if we want to go ahead and take a vote one way or another. We can just vote it and figure it out.
It's up to you.
Somebody want to make some sort of motion?
Well, as I said, I would move the calendar as presented, except for the meeting in March after the annual town meeting and the meeting in October after the fall town meeting.
And can I just quickly ask, to Jakub's point, talking about just the potential of removing meetings would just, possibly lead us to having longer meetings. I just want to make sure, Allison, is that your understanding as well? Like, there's no potential concerns around kind of workflow and like us having to meet on those days as opposed to just potentially elongating different meetings?
I am a fan of running an efficient meeting, so I will endeavor to do that no matter what. And I would say that, so I'm less concerned about that. It's more just, I think Sarah's point's interesting, that sort of regular drumbeat of information about what's going on in the schools is actually the backdrop of kind of what we do, which can be helpful in terms of thinking about the budget moving forward. But you meet a lot, and we can try to make the most of the time that we've got. I am here and I'm going to show up, so I think it'll be fine either way.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second on that? So he's proposing moving to remove the October 22nd and March 25th meetings, and then approving the calendar otherwise.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm going to abstain. So we've got 4 in favor and then 1 abstention.
And I would point out that in all the years I've been involved in meetings, public meetings, that our schedule should be a 2-hour meeting, and that in fact those that come and present for whatever the total number of presenters are, that they fit in the time that's allocated. I think it's a necessity that people be prepared when they come to the school committee to present their point so we can move on. I really, and there have been a case in a number of past years where people have been scheduled for half an hour and they speak for an hour and a half. It's not polite for us to stop that person, but I would tell you it's not polite if that's the way it works out.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so the next is, do we have anyone here to speak? I don't think so. Okay. And then we'll move on to our school committee reports. Steve, if you want to go first.
Well, actually, I've said everything I needed to say during the rest of the discussion, so I don't have anything here. I guess I would say that I have not had discussions yet with Armstrong relative to the point that I had made in past meetings, which is the need for air conditioning, and I guess I would like to start that with Aiden and with Bill and Kelly, and I guess Anita too should be included. So.
Thank you. Excellent. Jane?
The only thing I wanted to say is, Daniel, this is your last meeting, so thank you so much for, did someone say it was 15 years? How many years? 15. So nice round number. I mean, tonight your passion for data was on display, which was great, and that's something that I always think of when I think of you. I remember your updates during COVID. You presented a lot of data. You've worked our district through some really difficult times, and so thank you very much. And I hope you enjoy your retirement.
Thank you.
Jakub?
Nothing to report, but yes, I do want to say thank you, Daniel, for all the work, the long time that you've devoted to our district. I mean, in your tenure, our district has been doing really well, and I'm sure you were a big part of. I know you were a big part of the success. So you're leaving big shoes to fill. I hope you'll visit us sometimes after you leave.
I promised I'm going to watch you online routinely.
Well, thank you very much, and I would also like to say thank you to all the staff members that are retiring along with you. I believe there's 14 different members of staff, and I'd like to use this stage for one personal thank you to one of the teachers, Stephanie Garrett in 6th grade. She's running the Make the World a Better Place business fair in the 6th grade, which is a phenomenal project. She's raised a lot of money over the years towards different causes, and I'm really sad to see that she's retiring. She was a teacher to 2 of my sons, and I mean, she was just an amazing teacher, and it's a great loss to our district. So thank you, Stephanie, for all the work as well, and good luck at the fair next week.
Thank you. Tim?
Sure. I guess I'll just start by saying that I also actually had and remember Mrs. Garrett very well, and so I also appreciate her time and everything she's done for the schools. But Daniel, really thank you. You know, I've only been on the committee here for a year and a half now, but I just really feel like you've always been a source of strength and stability for the district, and we just really appreciate everything that you've done for Westborough. So we hope that you sincerely enjoy your retirement. But
thank you.
Just one quick update. I did want to share with everybody that the Smart Device Working Group did meet earlier this week to discuss policy for next year. We ultimately did decide to continue our current policy while improving on best practices to ensure compliance and minimize phone usage during class time. But we will continue to monitor developments at the state level for policy changes, as well as results from other districts that have implemented stricter device bans. And I'm not sure, Allison, if you have anything that you want to add relating to the working group?
Sure. I mean, I think we really are in this moment of realizing this may be a policy change that's necessary because of the state, and also kind of watching carefully. I did some outreach after our meeting to Northbridge, where they did do a bell-to-bell a few years ago using pouches, and so I had some feedback there. I think there is a sense that there's widespread interest in the possibility of bell-to-bell out in the community, and there are a lot of kind of hurdles to get through in terms of implementation we would need to do internally. And also, just in addition to sort of figuring out the practical matters of how do you get kids in and out of the building, there's just also some work around, you know, how do we actually address the problem? There's a sense that the phones themselves, you know, kids focus academically when you go to the high school, go to the middle school, seems to be pretty squarely on their academics. We're not seeing the focus issue there the way that maybe we were a couple of years ago. But the remaining issue is really around student well-being and mental health, and removing the phones during the day doesn't solve the entirety of that. That's a bigger community problem. We want to be part of a bigger community solution. So I think that's kind of a lot of thinking in the months ahead will be about how do we do outreach to the community, education to the community, parents in particular, and young parents in particular, so that we can sort of support good growth and development for kids. And then in the meantime, prepare for the possibility of making this switch when and if the time is right.
Thank you. So I don't have any updates. Just want to thank you, Daniel. You're going to be greatly missed. I want to thank you even more so because I'm sure this has been on your mind for a few years, and I want to give you a special thanks for taking us through this year. This was a huge transition for us, and I know that this was not a coincidence that you waited it out. So I think all of us really appreciate that, because that has helped to really ensure our stability, and I know you're passing on the baton, and I think you've worked with our assistant superintendent a few days now here, and yes. I'm really hoping that you were able to pass on the bits of wisdom that you might have, and I'm looking forward to working with him. But you're going to be very much missed, so thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It was, you know, an honor to work in Westborough. It's a tremendous community, you know, in all different regards, the parents, the kids, the faculty that are here, and the administrators I've worked with, and the school committee. I mean, it's rare to have a school committee that works at such a high level as you do. So I'm just, you know, I will miss Westborough quite a bit. Thank you.
Well, don't say that. I hope you're going to come back and visit. Like Jakub said, we expect to see you at all of our events.
I'm not deleting his number from my phone.
I know. After you come back from, go ahead.
I want to say this sort of out loud publicly. I'll say nice things about Daniel tomorrow at the milestone ceremony. But it was such a gift to have kind of a partner to work with who is so thoughtful, so smart, so much fun to work with, and has this institutional knowledge and just, you know, kids' best interest in mind. and really kind of kept the focus on, what good practice looks like, what does good instruction look like, and kind of kept coming back to that over and over in conversations. And so it's been wonderful. I feel like it was a gift, and thank you. So
yeah, thank you so much.
I didn't actually offer my feeling, I guess, in terms of your retirement. One of the things that I think is very clear is you've certainly been the glue that's held us all together, whether it's school committee or administration, as we've gone forward in, I wouldn't necessarily call them crises, but certainly we've had our thing while you've been here and while I've been here from time to time. And I think, as I said, there's a certain amount of glue that makes things run as well as they do. And I have to thank you for making my life easier during my tenure here. And hopefully whatever you get to do will be entertaining and I guess keep your mind going, because it's an important thing and you don't want to lose it any more than anybody else does. So, very
Definitely
good.
not. Thank you for that advice.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Okay.
everyone.
I think everyone has places to be. So let's wrap this up. We've got to approve some minutes. Does anyone want to make a motion? We've got May 14th and May 28th.
So moved to approve minutes of May 14th and the 28th.
Do I have a
as
second?
written.
I'll second.
Any discussion? If not, all in favor? 5-0-0. Anyone want to make a motion to adjourn?
And I'll move that too.
I'll second that as well.
Any discussion about that? If not, all in favor? 5-0-0. Thank you.
We should discuss adjournment.